Welcome to the Don't Call It Small Business Podcast, powered by Foreman & Associates, LLC, a consulting and professional development services firm. I'm your host, Natasha Foreman. Our podcast provides professionals and organizational leaders with helpful advice, tips, and business news that you can use for training, development, strategic realignment, and more. We examine the tough questions and issues impacting our businesses, households, and communities. If you like what you hear and find the content useful, please share us with your inner circle. Now that we've covered that and you've learned a little about us and why we do what we do, let's get to work. Join us for today's episode.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining me for part 4 of the series, How to Start a Business. Oh my goodness. All right, so if you're saying part 4, then that means you haven't listened to part 3, 2, and 1. So listen to those, then come back here. Don't worry, it'll still be here. For the rest of you that have done your homework for part 1 through 3 so far, you know, we've been taking a dive into your mind and heart. We've talked about your personal SWOT analysis. We've examined the benefits of starting a business, your visualization of your ideal business, clients, employees, and vendors and suppliers. We've outlined your values, mission, vision, and purpose. By now, you should have made a dent in your weekly homework assignments. So today, we're going to review the layers of a business plan and then get into the numbers of your industry. For those of you who are using this just to be able to have the content in order to pass on to someone else to actually draft your business plan, then that's fine. For the rest of us, the rest of you, this is where you get down into the nitty-gritty of things. All right. So with that, if you have something to write with, get whatever you're going to write with, take notes with, whatever, get it going. All right. So let's do an overview of the business plan. Your plan is a living, breathing roadmap for your organization. It's not a document you create and then throw in a drawer or, a file, on a shelf in the paper vault you rarely or never see. You're actually supposed to review it frequently to see how your strategic, tactical, and operational goals align or deviate from it, So I'm going to walk you through a basic plan. In the future episodes, I'll give you more insight into the extensive plan as needed by banks and investors. Since most banks only provide loans to people and companies that have money, assets that can be used as collateral, something the bank can claim in case your business, flops. Most startups rarely are eligible for a sizable bank loan, which means most have to find alternate means to raise the cash needed to cover startup costs. And so this can also be the same whiplash experience when pursuing investment dollars. And that's why crowdfunding and similar vehicles have been beneficial to startups and companies who face financial burdens or need restructuring. When you're going for those big box, the giants, your business plan and supporting documentation need to be on point. The big boys and girls, the ones wearing the big draws. You need to make sure your documentation is on point. It can't be sloppy. This is not where you come in with, your ideas on a napkin. And no, that's not how that goes. That happens only when you have strong relationships already interwoven, deeply embedded. There's some longevity and trust, and there's been skin in the game. That's when you can sit down and be like, look, here's the numbers I'm kind of working with, noodling around, what do you think about, this? And then from there, it can be whatever. But stop watching the movies and thinking that you can just sit down in a Denny's or IHOP or some fancy restaurant, or just come into a bank and just, smile and say, this is what I need. And they're just going to say, well, yeah. Okay. So let's just keep it real. You can manifest all you want, but that particular dynamic unless you got mind control that you can actively use, that's not going to happen. There's going to need some supporting documentation. You need to be able to show that you are what you say you are, and you can do what you say you can do, and that you can be the person, the man, the woman who can own up if things go wrong, right? That you're saying, this is what I'm willing to invest in, and this is what I'm willing to lose in this bet against myself. Because if you recall what I mentioned in the previous episode, it's about betting for yourself, against yourself. You are saying, this is what I'm saying I can do. This is what I say I can deliver. I'm bringing it, right? We talked about the vision. Vision is like, bring it. And then when you achieve it, you're like, I brought it. So the amount of time that goes into researching, compiling, and then masterfully drafting your plan, it can take 6 to 10 weeks. What you might not realize is that these past few episodes have been laying the foundation and the layers of your business plan. If you didn't know it, surprise! I mean, I've been saying it, but if you really didn't, if it wasn't clicking, if those pieces weren't falling into place for you, surprise! When you see a business plan template, typically there's an executive summary section followed by the business description. I want to give you a tip. Save both of these sections for the end. Just like you write the introduction of a book after the story is finished, the best way to summarize your plan is to look at the finished product, just as we do like when you're cooking and baking. You can't really describe the richness and depth of what you're cooking or baking until it's in front of you and you can take it all in. The same can be said for the process of writing your business description. Wait until you have brain dumped, researched, made sense of the information before describing what it is. If not, you might realize that what you first described changed slightly or drastically days or weeks in, after your planning is underway. Because maybe you're inspired by something, maybe you saw the ability, there's an opportunity came your way that you wanted to seize and it shifted something. So you might realize that while you're going through this process that, you have to modify something, and by doing so, it alters how you see and describe your business. So that's why I want you to save it to the end. It takes and also helps alleviate some of that initial stress and anxiety that comes from thinking about doing a business plan. At this stage, you are ready now, or you should have. You should already have, or should have. I'm trying to give you some leeway. You should have at least a rough draft of your list of your core values, your mission and vision statements, and you should have a strong awareness of the purpose for your company. You should have a feel for the ideal people you do want your business to have a relationship with, that you want to have a relationship with through your business. You already know the type of business, the industry, and one or more services and products that you want to provide your customers. So let's dive into the market. We're going to look at a market analysis, and that is often placed third in the business plan. And this assessment can be quantitative and or qualitative. So the first is strictly numbers, and the second is information gathered through interviews, stories, and building blocks, building beams to summarize your findings, right? Excuse me. Qualitative is just black or white. There are layers of gray and shades of other colors. And qualitative will ask the deeper questions that sometimes quantitative research overlooks or minimizes. So when we're looking at the market analysis, it helps you identify your best potential customers, their demographics, and who they are in this big old beautiful world. Market analysis helps you look closer into their lives and see their wants and needs. And here's the things that you should be able to ascertain through all the research that you do is, are their needs currently being met? If so, how? Which business or businesses are satisfying them and for how long? And if they aren't being satisfied and their needs aren't, consider why. You can't be the only one who knows this information, right? This is not like you're the wizard. So you need to be able to know your audience inside and out. And so you have to be able to go to them. You have to be able to search and interview and just see what people are saying. Look and see what people are expressing through social media as far as what they want and they need. You want a long-lasting relationship with these people that you have identified and visualized. And so you need to know where they are, what they want and need, and whether you have what they need, or you can find it and supply it or not. Because you may not have it, but can you find it? Can you supply it? It's a possibility. That's one thing that I've always said. If I don't know or if I don't have, I'm like, but I can go see if I can find it. Or I can find the person that can, right? So there may be things that I don't offer at Foreman Associates, but there's a possibility I can link you with someone that does do those things. Make sense? The last thing you want to do is, well, yeah. I mean, you may say, duh, Natasha, but a lot of people don't really get this. The last thing you want to do is waste your time or theirs. It sounds simple, but there's a lot of us wasting our time, and there's a lot of us wasting other people's times. With the understanding that time can't be reclaimed. It can't be trapped, at least not by us, right? And the reality is, I mean, we can also say there is no such thing as time. It is something that is created. You can go there if you want to. We have trained ourselves to follow a 24-hour clock. We place ourselves within the confines of that dimension of where our mind space is. And so we have constraints placed on us based on how we ebb and flow or choose to ebb and flow within that 24-hour period. So with that, you can't put potential customers on a shelf and then just dust them off years later when you are ready for them. Because by the time you're ready, they may already be committed to another relationship or altogether no longer have a need for what you belatedly can now provide. Do you not see the tie-in to how we are in our romantic lives? We do the same things. We're not ready, we're not mature, we're whatever, and we want to then put someone on a shelf and say, no, when I'm ready for you, baby, I'll pull you down, and then, I'll give you all that you want and need. By the time you're ready, that person's like, fool, I'm long past you. I already have what I need over here. Bye, right? Well, that's the same way our customers operate. They're not going to sit and wait for you to catch up to them, to be able to provide what they need. Either you have it or you don't. Either you can find it or you can't. That's all it comes down to it. When I was a small child, I needed training wheels for my bicycle. I no longer need training wheels. I can ride a bike perfectly fine. However, my nephew needs training wheels. And this is where marketing and eventually advertising comes into play to seduce me into a purchase. We won't dive into the elements of market research where, when you're in store and online, those purchase histories that you have are then sold to position you for ad exposure and sales proposals that slowly flood your email inbox. I'm going to explain that process to you in a future episode when we're focusing on marketing and sales so that you understand how it's done to you, and you will then choose whether or not that's what you want to do to your future customers and current customers. As you hear, I said choose. Now, switching gears slightly, let's look at your chosen industry. So I'm just going to grab one that I pre-selected. Let's say catering. What I found is that it's an $11 billion industry where there's approximately 86,677 businesses in the United States alone, employing roughly 251,000 people. And some of the largest caterers in the U.S. include Elior Group, Delaware North Companies, Inc., ISSA, American Food and Vending Corporation, and Legends Hospitality, LLC. Now, the catering industry includes companies that provide individual event-based food services, and usually they have vehicles and equipment to prepare food off-site, and then they transport to events. Like if you think of, weddings and trade shows, business luncheons, grad parties, proms, anniversary parties, conferences, so on and so forth, right? There's a low barrier to entry in this arena. So smaller size companies have the potential to thrive because historically the numbers reflect that the 5 most prominent companies only account for less than 10% of the market share. So that's 90+% that is just open waters. And so that allows, the newbies to come in. You're like, hey, you can free flow. Now, there is some things to be mindful of. The pandemic did hit the industry very hard. So there had been already declining revenue that was starting around 2018. So of course, when the pandemic hit, you started to see, some shift. But what was awesome to see in my research was that catering businesses learned how to innovate on the fly thanks to the global crisis. So between the years 2020 and 2022, what you end up seeing is that they pivoted. They saw what was happening, and they said, how can we adjust? And they started innovating and creating based on that, versus just allowing the wave to clobber them and put them out. The industry's revenue is projected to incline toward positive growth between years 2023 through 2028. So there's roughly 86,000 catering businesses in the U.S. You need to determine how many are located and operating in your state, so you can have some focused data to work with after, you do that broad stroke overview of the entire industry, right? So no matter what your business and industry, you can compile research online using various sources. I'm going to share some of the sources, some of which I use when I teach my business courses. If you did not know, I am a business professor. I teach management, marketing, ethics, HR management, some other. I'm trying to think other courses. So I use some of these resources when, assigning various assignments and projects to my students to be able to give them real-time data to work with, so they see how to apply what they're learning versus going based off of theory and then trying to get into a workplace environment and trying to then stick what they learn. I want them to learn now, apply now, so that when they're doing it, their managers, their coworkers see that shift and change in them and say, wow, like, how do you know this? And then they can say, oh, well, my professor taught me blah, 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 right? So with that, let me share these resources. There's IBISworld.com. And really quick, let me pause. I will make sure that I have the names of these resources in the show notes, as well as it'll be on Foreman Associates blog. So you'll be able to have that. I think what we'll probably also do is have a social media post as well, showing these sources so that you can be able to have quick access. We want to make sure that you can access this information on different platforms. All right. So I'll be sure to do that. So back to the sources, IBISworld.com, EIU Viewpoint, Lexis Plus, Bloomberg Terminal, Statista, D&amp Hoovers, use that all the time. Fitch Solutions Country Industry Reports, Fitch Solutions Industry Insight Reports. If you want to know the differences, the industry insight reports focuses on regional rather than country level industry reports. There's EBSCOhost, which I also use with some of my classes. The OECD Library, ABI/Inform, I also use. There are government websites like the Economic Census, the Annual Survey of Manufacturing, Current Industrial Reports, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which, if you didn't know, the Bureau reports on over 100 industries. There's also BEA's industry economic accounts, which is updated more often than the economic census data, but it doesn't always have as much geographical data, so just be mindful of that. You can also visit library.doc.gov/company/industry, and there you'll see that they provide training webinars to assist you with learning how to do industry research and analysis using various tools and resources, such as the ones I just mentioned. So there's resources there. The site also has a market research guide to assist with data on demographics and consumer behavior. It's important that you know or have quick access to your industry's classification codes to help with online searches. But I also say this because this information will be needed when applying to register your business with federal, state, county, and local agencies. Some people don't realize it, and then here they are in the middle, the middle part or the very beginning of their application, and then it's asking for these codes, and they're like, what's that? And then you're trying to research online, and then what happens, you get frustrated, and then you put off doing the application, and then you forget about it. You see that pattern of behavior? So it's better to have it up front, know it, so that you just have easy access. You could put Post-it note and have it, wherever you keep your work-related stuff so you can quickly access it. Put it in the note app on your smartphone, whatever. So let me share these two codes. There's the North American Industry Classification System, which is NAICS. That has a 6-digit standard code. So I want you to visit census.gov/NAICS. I typed in the search term catering. And when I did, I saw there's two categories that share the same number code based on the 2022 definition for North America. Which I hate that I'm going to have to say this, but sometimes some of y'all in the United States don't realize that North America encompasses Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. The U.S. is not North America by itself. So, something else is being mindful of. I said that it's based on the 2022 definition. That's because what they do on the site is they show you what the definitions were for previous years. Because as industries are evolving and things are taking place, those codings and the terminology also alter. So if you were using a 2011 code, for instance, that code number may be different than what we're using now. So you can then be able to see the difference. For companies that, going back to my catering example, for companies that define themselves as banquet halls with catering staff, or companies that categorize their industry as catering services social, the code is 722320. So that's the code that I would then write down for my NAICS code. Now, the second classification system is SIC, which stands for Standard Industrial Classification. They use a 4-digit code system. So I want you to visit OSHA's site. So osha.gov/data/SIC-manual. And you're going to click on SIC search and enter the keyword for your industry. So for this example, I typed in catering and it came back with no results. And I was like, what? So I typed in caterer and it came back with code 5812 eating places. And then when you click on the description, you'll then see that caterers and industrial and institutional food service establishments are then associated on this list. Now, that is where sometimes if you have to be willing to dig, I happen to be a person who I love digging. If you just go for the surface level and you're like, oh, well, it's not there, then it must not be. Nah. You gotta be able to dig. You have to be able to say, this door is locked. There has to be another way in. It can't be that my industry, that my idea does not fall into a category. Let me go through another way. So it didn't show up as catering, but it came up, it was populated under caterer. Do you see what I mean? Now, the goal when doing research is to collect as much relevant information that will help you make confident decisions when forming and operating your business. Folks, let me say this. Fluff is more suited for toilet paper, not for your business plan. And even some of us don't even like the fluff for the toilet paper. So understand, if you put a bunch of fluff in your business plan, it's going to only irritate you and anyone else that's reading it. And people that are seasoned business professionals, that are seasoned in investing or, merging, acquiring businesses, consulting businesses, whatever the case may be, they can see, smell, taste fluff a mile away. They don't want it. They don't need it. It's wasting their time. Remember what I said about time. Don't waste theirs and don't waste yours. So I want you to look to see the nature of the industry. Look for any trends, statistics, external influences like the laws and politics and the economy, trade embargoes, etc. All of that. All the macro environmental factors that can directly impact your business, but also that your business can have an influence on. You need this information because it's going to help you to navigate your entry into the market or better establish yourself if you're already in the market. It's also helpful when factoring major shifts and crises that impact the industry and when you're anticipating, forecasting the potential impact on your own business. So I'm going to use the catering example again. What if the business buys a food product from a producer in a country facing a trade embargo? Well, you might need to go with plan, C, D, E, F, whatever. All right. Some of you may have only had a plan A, so now you need plan B. But you're going to have to get back to the research. You're going to have to really get in there. So dig around and see what industry standards that consumers and companies generate. What are the expectations from both the consumers and the company's vantage point? Do your products, services, delivery methods, and packaging meet or exceed the standards? Or are they way below? This is important because this information will help you see what consumers are expecting and how you can possibly wiggle in a competitive advantage if you're bringing excellence in an area of your state, for instance, where consumers want better, but they're receiving mediocrity. And so for some, they're opting to recruit outside of the area to have their needs met. Some are traveling an hour, 2 hours plus to have their needs met. Now, thinking of performing with excellence. The major reasons for starting your business is because you think you can do as well or better than other competitors. Because no one starts a business knowing they suck at cooking and catering meals. Don't get it twisted. Yes, there's a lot of sucky food out there, but those orders were inspired. Those ideas were inspired and encouraged by a handful or more people who said that their food was good. Someone was like, oh yeah, Johnny, this is great. Oh my gosh. And it could just be that the people that you had taste your food really are not great at cooking, or they really just don't have a good sense of what is required and what is expected on a major scale. Like what you do for home may not be scalable for 100, 200, 1,000 plus people at an event. It makes sense? And so with that, with all the sucky food out there, only time will tell if enough strangers will repeatedly, purchase the food and proclaim them good, great, excellent, and award worthy. Maybe there'll be some changes and they will improve. Maybe they will have an opportunity to be taken under the wing of someone that's more seasoned that can help them. Maybe they will then realize it's not all about them, and they find a circle of influence, a network of individuals, an advisory board, so to speak, that can actually help them craft and hone their talent. Now, thinking of your industry, where do you spot opportunities to innovate? How can you improve or build upon something within your industry, redefining some part or element that can ultimately get the masses to equate you and your business with this innovation? I'm going to share an example. There's Hungry Catering. They're based in Virginia. They created an online marketplace that facilitates corporate catering by giving consumers access to local shops and streamlining ordering processes. And the thing was, they did this during the pandemic. This is how they, I believe, during the pandemic, this is one way in which they innovated what was taking place. So you have that, but you can innovate, but you can also create something that is new and bold and never done before and be okay with it. want you guys to think of how bento boxes have been growing in popularity throughout the U.S. as a convenient lunch pail alternative. First marketed to adults and now also heavily embraced for use with children. And I won't lie, they have been beneficial in my household, but they aren't new, right? They're not, what we have now are not new. So you maybe, you're mad, what? And so I asked myself the question, how long have bentos been used in Japan? And I ended up doing my little research and finding out that since around the 12th century during the Kamakura period, and then by the Edo period, which began around the year 1603, the bento culture spread and became more refined. So thanks to this global outreach and influence, we see bentos throughout grocery stores and, of course, online. And if you look at all the variations and options you can now select from, there's the innovation. All right, so from one basic, combination of formation, and you see where people are coming up with these other innovative ideas and ways in which they can be insulated and can be incorporated in backpacks and all this other, fun stuff. So I want you to think of how you can innovate things, processes, features, services in your industry through your company, whether it's a company of the future or the company that you have now. Think of how you can come in with something big, bold, how you can improve something. So a lot of times we're just focused on what I can create as new. And sometimes it is something that you're creating as new. And then there's also things that you're innovating because you're like, yeah, I can tweak that. I can make this. This is why this doesn't always apply, or this can apply now to a new, different type of people by me putting my twist on it. So always look through that vantage point as well. Okay. I have said more than enough for today. It's homework time. You probably already know what I'm going to say, right? This is the fourth time. You should know what I'm going to say. Your homework is you're going to answer the questions that I presented today. You're going to gather the data that is needed for your business plan. In our next episode, we're going to investigate the competitive landscape, identify market gaps, and define your target market. Because saying that your target market are humans is too broad of an audience for you to target now. Like when life around us starts to resemble, Star Trek, Star Wars, Battlestar Galactic or something, I don't know. Then we can consider that as a demographic. You can then say, yeah, my products and services are for humans, right? And they're not for the Borg. So maybe, I don't know. All right, let's not even go down there. I can already hear the comments. So with that, I will see you guys back here next week. I hope that you have an awesome day. You better make today an awesome day. Don't slack off on your homework. Your business is counting on you, and your dreams are waiting for you to seize them and make them your reality. Your customers, your clients, your employees, present and future, are counting on you. You are an idea creator. You are manifesting and making the world that is of and impacted by your business. Don't slack on this. I've done it. We have all done it, and we know the consequences of doing so. It's not fun. It hurts. All right, folks, it's that time. We're going to wrap up, go our separate ways. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please rate and review the podcast so that others can find us. We want to make sure that we give proper credit for our show's theme songs. They are by the talented Shane Ivers. Thank you again for tuning into the Don't Call It Small Business podcast, for sharing these episodes with others, and for your continued support. Don't forget what we tell you on each and every episode. Don't call what you're planning, thinking, dreaming, or doing little or small. Go big, go bold, or go nowhere. Have a super awesome day and week.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, there's 4 things that we ask of you. First, please leave a rating and review. Second, be sure to connect with us on social media. Third, head over to foremanllc.com/podcast to sign up to our email list. And fourth, check out all the links and resources in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in to the Don't Call It Small Business Podcast, for sharing these episodes with others, and for your continued support. And don't forget what we tell you on every episode. Don't call what you're planning, thinking, dreaming, or doing, little or small. Go big, go bold, or go nowhere. We can't wait to reconnect with you soon. See you next time.